on any percentage or anything related to the deal. They're on a flat rate base contract, meaning they don't have any incentive in the deal to advise one way or the other. We bid it out. We published it in the bond buyer to make sure we got a good response, because everybody in the municipal bond market reads the bond buyer. That's sort of the Bible out there. We got 6 firms responding for the FA. We went through the RFPs, formed an internal committee based on legal reps, ops reps. We all learned a little along the way, I hope, and finance, of course. We eliminated 2 proposals which really weren't sufficiently compliant with the proposals, and we interviewed the other 4 firms. The other 4 firms were PFM, PRAG, which is Public Resource Advisory Group, First Southwest Company, and Acadia. How do you pronounce it? Acacia. I'm sorry. The bids, we interviewed all 4 firms, put together a rating criteria which was in the RFP, so everybody knew up front. The 4 firms were rated by our group of 6, so the highest score attainable was 600. PFM and PRAG with a leading point totals from the group. PFM came in at 539, PRAG came in at 515. PRAG bid 325,000, PFM bid 210,000. Southwest bid 200,000. So you had the 3 of them up, 3 of the 4 at 200,000 and above, and then our, how do you pronounce it? Acacia. Can't pronounce it, so Acacia. Thank you. Acacia came in at 95. Nevertheless, based on the high point total from the group, PFM and their cost of the bid, they're highly rated by the city and everybody else. They work with all the underwriters. They do bond deals, weekly, 3 or 4 a week. They're a professional group, good recommendations. It's a good price, both in the context of what we've done in the past, and we're recommending PFM. They are, as the committee might remember, they are our investment. The same firm is our investment advisor, and we vetted that internally to make sure there was no conflicts in terms of their performance on the bond deal. So, I might add, the other component of the bond team was selected by Phyllis, going back as bond counsel, I think in January. That's Hawkins. So the plan is, if the board approves these 2 members of the bond financing team, is to have the FA help the management team and come back to this board in June with the recommendation of underwriters, lead underwriters, and a selling syndicate. Why would we do that? And I put it in here. We got some 20 proposals from underwriters or thereabouts, and quite frankly, the FAs have an expertise. They work with all the underwriters. They're part of what they do is advise us on in our board on the best selling group, the best complement, the best mix. Some are better at retail, some are better at corporate sales, but they will recommend, with our help, side by side, a lead underwriter, which we plan to come to the board with in June, and a selling group or co-managers in June. So, with that, we recommend CBRE and public financial management for the real estate and the FA components of the team.
I have a question from the members. We have one question. It's about another story. It seems to me in a lot of our it seems to be and it's the last thing we look at is price. So they have to meet the underlying qualifications. Otherwise, a very bad decision can simply be made on price where they don't have the other qualifications.
Correct.
What is the problem? How do you do that process?
Well, internally, there's been much discussion on that. I think the criteria you see here reflect, and again, price is approximately a third, and an important component. You always want to consider price, but
I'm
you
not
can't.
saying that. I mean, you have to meet the qualifications technically.
Right. You have to have the right team and the right
Four
corporate.
bidders and two don't meet it, you throw them out even if they did it in 1/3 the price. Because you're not going to get the result.
But we did
Correct.
it, right? We had a
Correct.
$95,000 bid, but we dismissed it.
That's correct. That's correct. You don't want to, like construction, you don't want to take a bid that's half, the bid of the pack, and that from experience you can't get the job done for that cost, because you're going to get what you pay for. And there's other factors, as you just mentioned. It's not only the price, but do you have the corporate capabilities,
Well, that's what I'm
do you have the
saying.
team,
They
do you
don't
have the
have that.
experience?
But just are so competitive on price, can they get the award? Simply because the scoring
No,
is
usually,
the highest score.
usually one goes with the other. Usually they go hand in hand. If you're bidding way out of the money, less than half of the pack, you don't get the real scope of the services. And I mean, there's been just experience in the past, and you generally don't have the wherewithal or the team to bid a price that you need to complete the task.
Bob, on the financial advisor,
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
here's the example that let me just
Go ahead.
either help you out here or you can clarify. So for the financial advisors, we got 6 bids in. You read the proposals, and even before you went to the committee with the voting, you eliminated 2 proposals
Right.
because you didn't think they were up to the task.
Well,
That's what Frank is asking.
2
Or
things.
they were incomplete. So
Yeah, or they
Rana
were
and
incomplete.
Clearview
Or,
were eliminated
let
right
me
off
make
the
that
top.
clear, it's a good point. Not up to the task, but also did not respond fully to the RFP as they were supposed to. There's a lot of requirements in the RFP. If you miss a certain key questions or didn't fully answer those questions,
No,
or
I
just flew by them,
understand that.
then,
Then
that's a
you don't
reflective of
want
your,
But all things being equal, if they, you can be driven simply by price and not get the value. It's really the point, and I think many times
well, that's why we put it in balance.
people confuse cost with value.
Exactly.
And I think that's been part of the problem over
Historically.
years with some of the construction work prior to the in-house fixing.
That's very true.
Where
Very true.
prices were lower, and that sort of predominated.
If you
Well,
make
that
price
was the winning vote.
80% of your criteria, and you're the low person, then you might be seeing the firm that the entire group did not think was qualified for this job winning this bid. Right?
In your protocol, and in this analysis of the points, right, first, a third of that goes to economics.
Correct.
And the other 2/3 of various criteria, which are the capabilities, professionalism, experience, breadth of operations, so that they really have the capability of those kinds of things. And he's kind of suggesting this question, and you can either affirm or tell us a little different, that as you go through that evaluation, you are in essence, if the price is only a third, then really by design, you're putting those proposals through a screen that is non-economic before their number can become persuasive. And that's how you dismissed a bid that was half the cost
Right.
of the one that you want to accept, right?
Exactly.
Because he did not get that bidder did not get through that screen.
If you
that's what
weight
you're getting.
if you weight the cost 80% of your
But
criteria.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is simply along the lines. You can get a proposal that looks very attractive on price, but is marginal on qualifications and capability to do it. And you can get a competing bid in that may be 25% higher in price. but they have all the expertise as you've outlined for CBLs. If they came in 25% higher, you would probably go to them anyway, as an example. It's just for illustrative purposes. In many cases, when you do an RFP, particularly where there's technical competence involved, it would be good protocol not to look at price until you evaluate the technical components of the RFP. Because if the person coming in 25% lower gets the 30% on price, but CBLs get 0 on price, you could end up with a higher score in the technically incompetent margin. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and from time to time, we award the results of an RFP to a participant that doesn't have the highest number in the score, do we not?
I don't think so. And I
I
got
thought I
the score
saw
because
one recently that we went through where we had points, and some guy was higher, and some guy was a little lower, and somehow we had a reason to go with the lower guy, judgmental.
Historically, there had been more of an emphasis on cost, but in the last 2 or 3 years, we have changed to a point system that takes greater. There's more focus on the qualification things that may differ from one project to the next. We may be particularly interested in a particular kind of expertise in one kind of a project, or schedule may be a very important component in another project. So we create the scoring criteria based on.
Yeah, but you're in construction.
Right.
And that's not what we're talking
No,
about.
I know. He just made a point about
I think what Frank's raising is a very good point, which is that you can go through the criteria, and if you look at the formula is actually in here, 30% relevant
Right.
experience, 30% resources, 30% fees, and 10%, MWBE. I think what he's raising is, so great, you get the scores. Is there a step here that says, now let's step back and say, does this make sense to us? Are these the people that we really want to do business with, based on the expertise and the...
Before you even look at price, in the state bidding process, we bid a lot of state and city. The price is considered a separate proposal. So they don't even look at price.
That's interesting. That would say...
Until they look at the technical components, quite frankly, and they will then make a judgment based on the technical components of what's been presented. And then, before they look at price, make a decision that this does not meet the criteria of what we're trying to accomplish. Then they'll throw it out even before they go to price.
Right. I think I hear what you're saying. I think the system we have, it's side by side and balanced. In your example, if someone's not qualified, if you don't do one before you even look at costs, and you do it simultaneously, as we're doing, we're looking at the criteria set up, and the cost is in there, and it's side by side, it's approximately a third. I don't see any situations, or I've not been involved in anybody, where you're going to pick somebody that's not qualified with all the qualifications because of a cost factor. I think they're linked. I think that the cost and the qualifications are.
I think part of what Frank is saying, though, is, because I think he used some important words when he was describing what can happen in real life, which is that you can have you can sort of pass the test or just get over the bar on experience and resources,